Looking at the current state of affairs in the Kenyan political system, I'm wondering if the problem is Ruto or if the problem is Raila working with Ruto or if the problem is Gachagua being removed from his position as the deputy president of Kenya, or if the problem is Luos being in government, or if the problem is our systems, or even if the problem is our way of thinking. These are questions I would like every Kenyan to ask themselves and to deeply interrogate themselves and give themselves genuine response, because therein lies the solution to the issues that we are facing as a country. That is why I always insist, before you solve a problem, you have to understand the problem. Otherwise, with a wrong diagnosis, then the reality is that the solution is either going to be masqueraded as a solution, which means it only solves the symptoms but not the actual problem, or it is going to be a complete failed solution because it is not going to solve the problem correctly. That is why I inspire all Kenyans to ask themselves these questions and to share this video around to people to listen to, because this is what we need to do. It is the information age. It is the age where every information is available for everyone. So we are not living in the past where politicians would take advantage of the citizen and peddle lies all around the country, that what they go to tell people in Nyanza is not the same thing they go to tell people in Turkana. It's not the same thing they go to tell people in Mombasa. It's not the same thing they go to tell people in Garissa. So this is the information age. Whatever they say in whatever part of the country can be seen, can be heard by anybody who has access at least to the internet or to connection to TV or radio. So things are getting better. So we need to take advantage of that. And with the current Gen Z revolution, we need to ensure that we don't let this wave ride along without actually inspiring the change that we desire. So I asked the questions I asked at the start so that you, as a viewer and as a Kenyan who also desires for change, just like I do, who also desires to see a better country, who also desires to see youth with the jobs, who also desires to see roads and transport networks working well throughout the country, not only in sections where government apologists come from, not only from the regions where government plutocrats find affectionate, then this is the platform, this is the way that we can contribute to the change that we desire, by ensuring that we spread information, by ensuring that we enlighten each other, by ensuring that we talk to each other about the issues that are affecting us. Because as you realize, the issues affect us all together, not in division. The issues don't have preference, that this is a Luo, so I'm going to bite him more than a Kikuyu, or this is a Kamba, so I'm going to ensure that he finds it difficult to access food, to access education. No. All these issues affect all of us in unison. And that's why I asked the questions I started with. Because through that, you are going to understand that our problem is bigger than we imagine or think. And that's why no matter how much we put effort to solve it, it keeps going around like in a rat race, and we meet it again. So what I mean is this. Some years back, we had President Kibaki, whom I think, from my view, is one of the presidents who tried to show what can come of a government that decides to work for its people. That is when we came up with the Thika Superhighway, which revolutionized the way business occurs between the central region and Nairobi, which is the central business district. For those of you who don't know, Thika Superhighway was like a small, thin, two-way. My aunt used to live in Thika, so I used to use the Thika Superhighway before it was the Superhighway. And you would not like to see the traffic jam that would have been in that road. You can't imagine today the way it flows seamlessly. Just a couple of years back, it was absolutely terrible to come from Thika town to Nairobi CBD. So a working government made this a thing of the past, and businesses can now move frequently their goods to the city and from the city. So fast forward, we are back again complaining about the leadership. And so that's why I asked the question, what is the problem? Because if the problem is Ruto, then if we get off Ruto, then we need to have solved the problem. We don't need to finally, at a time in the future, complain again about the very same things. So my opinion is this. Those questions I asked are answered differently by different Kenyans. And if they're genuine to themselves, you'll realize that you are going to have different answers. For some people, it is Ruto. For some people, it is Raila who has disappointed them by working with Ruto. So that's the problem for some people as of now. For other people, it is Luos being in government, in quotes, because I don't think there's something like that. For other people, like me, is that the problem is the way we think. The way we think as a people is a problem. Because that is why even today, we have other candidates who are formidable, who are promising, who look genuine, but we don't believe or think that we can empower these other candidates so that they become the leaders we desire to see, the leaders we desire to serve us. So before we get this right, we'll always be in this rat race. Why? Because the system has been made in such a way that it doesn't work for us. This political system that we have, it is not representative of our culture, of our way of life. It is a political system that is of Western origin. So before we can think about how to alter these systems, to customize them so that they work for us, we will still be having problems of having a president who does not respect the Constitution. We will still have the problem of having a president who turns independent institutions to government institutions. We will still have a president who commands the judicial system instead of listening and collaborating with the judicial system. So I believe the problem is in the way we think, that we need to come up with these solutions. And more so, the way that we view politics. Because today everybody is suffering, is having a difficult time. High living expenses, bei ya ugali imepanda, bei ya unga, hata bei ya mboga imepanda. Bei ya kila kitu imepanda. The exchange rate for the shillings against the dollar is going crazy high, and that shows the economic situation of our country, Kenya. So this means that just like we were able to troubleshoot the Constitution and check and find loopholes and come up with the 2010 Constitution, which has at least created some systemic change in the way government business is done. Actually, if the government of the day would respect the Constitution to the core, then I think everything should be fine, because that is one of the best constitutions around the world. You can check that. So if our politicians would respect the rule of law, and that is from the top, from the president, down to the government official and government employees, everyone respect the rule of law, then our country would be really very far and economically powerful, because we are an economic powerhouse. We have a very, very, very impressive human resource. We have a very, very, very good depth of natural resources. So we just need to have infrastructures, and we need to have goodwill for the leadership of the day to overhaul the situation, to create jobs, to ensure that the youth are not languishing in poverty, so that crime can go down, so that when the youth are engaged, they are even thinking of creating better jobs for themselves and for others. But in such a situation, it is survival for the fittest, and that's why it becomes difficult to think. And even as much as things are difficult like this, if the elections were tomorrow and today a politician came to you and gave you some token of appreciation, we call it, some 2,000 Kenyan shillings to go and stay in a polling station and vote, you only get the money after showing your ballot paper and your choice. I think if President Ruto would do that today, then chances are high he would be re-elected unanimously. So what do I mean? I mean, this economic situation has made it difficult to think beyond our bellies. So that is how the system has created the problem, and it's very difficult to stop it, not unless we choose to actually think without letting these situations push us to the wall. So until then, I think it would be very difficult to have a complete overhaul for the way things are, for the living conditions, for the joblessness of the youth. Because, like I said, even tomorrow, if the elections were to be held tomorrow, then don't be surprised that in as much as we are so sad, we are so disgruntled by the current state of affairs, it is still possible that President Ruto can be re-elected almost unanimously, as long as he is willing to appeal and to massage our stomachs with some tokens that will go by the wind after the election. So that's my message today, that ask yourself the question as to whether, if you get that opportunity today to make the decision at the ballot and also get an offer from the candidate that you are disgruntled about for the last 5 years, what would you do? Please try to make that answer be that you will still stick to your inner conscience. And let us all purpose to do that. Let us purpose to spread the message to our aunties, our relatives, everybody, and ask them this tough question. And the moment we will align together and in unison, that is the moment that Kenya will reclaim its spot, its glory as a powerhouse in East Africa and Africa at large. Thank you.